What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. It is Combine Week. Like we opened the first half hour of the show, quarterback rumors are swirling through the air. Nick, what's up, man?
So I was sitting here like leaning in, trying to get a look at that shirt. I went on YouTube like to get a clearer look at it because the picture on the computer isn't clear. And I was gonna take a shot at it, and you just took all my ammo away. So I'm just gonna say good morning.
I will say yes, I am fully cognizant of the look, but it's like 4:30 in the morning. I'd already put it on. I'm like, all right, whatever, dude. We're just gonna roll with it. We're just gonna roll with this. I do feel slightly self-conscious, if I'm being completely honest. Like, especially walking into a new room, right? Because if somebody's not prepared for it, it is very like, whoa, like, hey now, that's a choice right there. Nick, it is Combine Week. You're at 8 a.m. today. Why are you early? What has you so interested? What's going down at 9 a.m.?
So some of the coaches in GM talk today, and the Raiders coach talks today. The Jets GM talks today. So obviously there's some Derek Carr ties there. The Saints aren't scheduled for anything officially, but we're going to hear from DA and Mickey at some point this week. So there'll be some updates from the Saints side. They like to kind of just meet with the locals privately instead of like for the national media, which I appreciate because we don't got a lot of like Jets reporters doing what I'm about to do and asking the Jets GM a bunch of questions about the Saints. So, so that's beneficial. But yeah, I mean, look, some of the Derek Carr stuff is heating up. I'm sure you guys saw the report this morning that he's going to meet with the Saints again and the Jets again. Yeah, so he's meeting with the Saints again this week, the Jets again this week, and then Carolina is entering the fray. So I like where they sit right now. I think the Saints actually are in the lead right now. It seems like they've positioned themselves to maybe come out of this thing with Carr. But look, anything can happen. One of these meetings, someone can get desperate. But right now it sounds like they're kind of the team in the lead to get Derek Carr.
Okay, so then maybe I've misrepresented it in my own head because – what I had thought is that Derek Carr was basically saying, I kind of like New York best, but they got to wait on Rodgers. And then if that falls through, then I'll go back to New Orleans. So you're saying New Orleans may actually be at the 4 here. And I guess that makes a bit more sense because, well, do you know this, Nick? I've read some reporting that maybe intimates this, that the Jets told Derek Carr that they want to see what happens with Aaron Rodgers first. Like have they already basically let him know that he is second fiddle to Rodgers?
Yeah, and look, he's the number one guy with the Saints. The Saints are the team that brought him in for a visit. They made him an offer. He likes the Saints situation. I'm sure there's things like about the Jets too, and we've talked about this a few times. Like, I think they might have the best roster out of all these teams, but I think they probably have the toughest circumstance out of every team that's entered the fray. You got Josh Allen and Miami and the Patriots in that division. That's true. That's tough to win games. He's going to be judged off of wins and losses at the end of the day. And if you go to the Jets and let's say they win 5 or 6 games next year, which is possible being in that division, you might be back in a Raiders situation where you have a different coach every single year. If you come to the Saints, the odds of Dennis Allen getting fired are low regardless. Like, they would have to really bottom out, just kind of the way this team operates. And then you put Carr in here, he's far and away the best quarterback in the division. The Saints are going to make the playoffs with him. So I just think it's a better situation. It's more longevity. You play in a dome. There's some feeling of being wanted, which probably matters after getting cut unceremoniously and discarded by the last team. So, I think if they just kind of keep their foot on the gas, stay competitive with their offers, I don't think it's going to be $35 million even to get him. So I think they're going to be able to get him for a decent price as long as nothing unforeseen happens. And look, it's possible you go into this room and all of a sudden the Jets make a blow them away pitch, or Carolina does. All the things that are true about the Saints are true about Carolina too. What scares me about Carolina, if I'm Derek Carr, is they have the number 9 pick. And frankly, if we're talking about the Panthers as Panthers reporters and radio hosts here, I think we'd all be saying the Panthers are pretty dumb to sign Derek Carr instead of doing whatever they can to move up from 9 to 4 or 3 or whatever to get the young quarterback of the future. So if I'm Derek Carr, I don't know if I feel safe in that situation. So I like the Saints situation, and everything I've heard seems positive for the Saints right now.
All right, Nick, let's say that it doesn't work out for the Saints. Let's say Derek Carr chooses to go be a Jet or be a Panther, whatever it might be. What's the backup plan for the Saints at quarterback?
Oh God, I have no idea. I have no idea. Maybe it's Jimmy G. You go to him and you hope he stays healthy. Tannehill might be out there. Man, I hope it's not Carson Wentz.
Ugh.
At that
Yeah.
point,
Oof.
I might look to come back with Andy Dalton and try to do whatever I can to get one of the rookies. I don't know how far you got to go to get like, whoever the fourth guy is, Richardson, Stroud, whoever. I might be trying to get up in the top 15 then to land one of those guys with everything I have because it just kind of feels like the bottoming out after Carr is kind of steep. And again, he's not a savior or anything, but I just don't think anybody else. Like I think you're at that Andy Dalton level really quick. I like Jimmy probably about the same or maybe even more than Carr, but it's just the availability is such a huge issue with them. So I don't think there's a great plan B right now.
Is the reporting that I'm seeing, Nick, is that Derek Carr's camp is kind of starting at $35 million a year. I know we've talked a lot about the market from a projection standpoint, but as we see the market kind of develop, right? I don't know who's playing games. It is, it's smoke season, so like everybody's playing games. But like the Panthers are saying they don't think he's worth the money, or at least kind of putting it out there. The Commanders are saying that they don't want to invest heavily in quarterback right now. Like it's starting to like. Are the Jets? Do you believe the Jets and the Saints are the only teams willing to hit that $35 million number? And if that is the case, and somebody like Rodgers goes to the Jets, well, then all of a sudden do the Saints have to hit that $35 million?
I don't think anybody's willing to hit the $35 million mark. I think that's why this is still going on at this point. Yeah. I mean, look, so there was the report that he wants to make $35 million. So as a reporter, typically when you see those things, my first thought is, the agent is putting an advertisement out there basically to let everybody know, hey, if you want this guy, this is all he costs. And $35 million seems kind of reasonable when you look at what other quarterbacks in the league are making. Like that's at Kirk Cousins level, and that Cousins deal was signed a while ago. So you would think that the Carr deal would be the same or more, but it doesn't seem like it's getting there. And then the second thing is putting that out is kind of a way to maybe put pressure on the teams that are in it to let their fan bases know, like, hey, look, it's only $35 million. And if you told me they got Carr for 35, I would have been like, oh, that's a pretty solid deal. It seems fair. It seems reasonable. But I don't think anybody's gotten there yet. His last deal was at 38.6. I think if the Saints had been coming in at 35, they probably would have just accepted the trade, or the Saints would have just upped it a couple $1 million. Like, I think the offers are probably around 25 or 30 right now for him. And I think they probably go up. I think they probably go up maybe a little bit if there's some competition. But also, Ian Rappaport, he put a video out, and the wording in that was Derek Carr is going to choose the fit over money. So, again, being a reporter, when I hear that, I'm thinking, oh, the offers aren't there. They're kind of doing advanced damage control to say he picked the right spot. He didn't pick the cash, because I don't think the cash is going to be there. But we'll see. I could end up being wrong.
All right. It's always interesting when market come together live. Jake, does that change your opinion at all? 25, 30?
I mean, yeah, 25 is completely different than.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, you're talking about, obviously. Nick, you said something that obviously caught my attention. So if you wanted to move up into the top 15, would 29 and 40 get you to 15?
Maybe. Again, it depends who's on the board. Like if there's a quarterback sitting there, like typically when there's a quarterback on the board, like you end up having to pay more because there's that little bit of a premium. So possibly, but it probably, realistically, like when Kansas City went up to get Mahomes, I think it was their first that year and a first the next year. Like probably getting that 10 to 15 range, you might have to pay that kind of price to get there. But if you love one of these quarterbacks and you want to get to 10 or 15, like 2 first isn't a lot. Like if he is the guy, if you're just kind of like, well, we kind of like Anthony Richardson, but I'm not sure. Like you obviously don't do it. But if you love the guy, like that's a small price.
I mean, you traded 2 firsts for Marcus Davenport, so.
Yeah, exactly. And look at, I mean, it's like I feel that Davenport's been disappointing, but in a way, like even that deal has almost done a disservice to him, right? Because it just set this level of expectation on him that is unattainable. It seems like for him, and that's kind of, Nick, where I started to think about Hendon Hooker a lot, where when you start to play these quarterback hypotheticals, it seems like by far the fan favorite, and I understand it, right? And even somebody like Cam Jordan's kind of put this out in the universe, where he just tweeted, sign a vet QB, draft a young one, let's ride, right? Hendon Hooker has the feeling of he's almost becoming like a MacGuffin, like a mythical cure-all. Like if you draft Hendon Hooker, it's good. Your quarterback situation is going to be solid for the future. Do you have any insight as to what the Saints are actually thinking about Hooker, where he would maybe draft, like where his value would be, and do they at all, because they've been on record as saying they think you got to be in the top to get a quarterback, worth his salt. Do you think, are they even really entertaining Hooker in the way that us, the fans, are?
I'm sure they're entertaining him. Look, I can't say this for sure, but I've heard from other scouts, and the universal opinion is kind of that he's a third-round pick and
Wow.
or third-round graded player. And typically, look, there's often only about 12 guys with like a first-round grade. So like the guys you drafted in the first round often have a second-round grade. The guys you drafted in the second round usually have like a third-round grade. So he's probably in that second-round range with a third-round grade. But look, I just think that some of these other guys are better. They have a higher ceiling. He might kind of be like a safe guy, but what is he? He's like 25. Like Jameis has been in the league for what seems like 7 decades, and he's only 29 years old. Like that's an older player entering the league right now. So I think that's part of the equation too. And then you add in the injury on top of it. I think he has a chance to be good if he ends up in the right situation, but I don't know that you draft Hendon Hooker and don't do anything in free agency and say, okay, like this is a guy that we're going to take and he's going to start for us next year. Like I just don't think that can happen like that. But here's my thing with Carr. Like I like Carr a lot better at 25 or 30 because I feel like if you get him any price at 40, 45, 50, whatever, like he isn't a savior of your franchise. I think you need to continue to be looking for the next guy almost immediately. If you get him at like 25, I think you could look at it like, okay, he's Alex Smith. And when Patrick Mahomes becomes available, like we're going to do everything we can to get him. And when the investment is a little bit lower, I think that you're a little bit more free to actually approach it the way you need to. So if you have the 15th best quarterback in the NFL, you still need to be doing everything you can to get from 15 to 5 or 4 or 3 or 2. And at a lower price, you can do that. So if you pay Carr 25 and you draft Hooker in the second round, like that's really reasonable to me. And that's actually a much better approach. But if you're paying him 40 and then you aren't doing everything to support your $40 investment, it's a little bit harder to do. So it's more freeing if you get Carr at the right price.
Hey, real quick, Nick, outside of the quarterback talk, obviously you're there at the combine. What other positions are the Saints going to be paying attention to the most?
So, like, my personal thing right now is, like, I think they need to approach this offseason as if they don't have a running back on the roster because Alvin's going to get suspended. And then he's also at a point in his career where I think he needs a little bit more support. Like, their first down runs last year, the expected points added were among the lowest in the league. They saw heavy boxes on a lot of their first downs because of the way they want to play. So, I don't think that their approach on offense is the right approach, kind of being this like built off the run, have 15 play drives or whatever. But if you want to play like that, you need the right players, and they don't have the right running backs to play the style of offense they want to play. So they need to get that guy regardless. And then when Alvin comes back from suspension or whatever, like having a two-headed monster there might help. And maybe that's a way to cover up some of the stuff on your offensive line that's shaky, some shaky quarterback play. So I think they need to go after running back with everything. Defensive line, obviously, massive needs, both spots, every spot, really. Even Cam Jordan, like, he's getting older. So I think you could bring in 4 of those guys and justify it however you need to, free agency or the draft. Tight ends, a kind of a sneaky need. Possession receivers a need. The only place they really don't need to look, I don't think, is cornerback. But if they wanted to look in the slot, like, I think you could bring a slot cornerback in. Your safeties are a little bit older. You could bring in a safety. So, like, the door is open on pretty much everything, but kind of prioritizing them. Like I got running back really high and defensive line really high. I think those are the 2 things they need more than anything other than quarterback.
Nick Underhill, NewOrleans.football is the site. Incredible site. Y'all, if you are a Saints fan and you want to stay up to date with all of the latest information, even like just in this interview, right? Listen to Nick give you like the interpretation of what is being put out there publicly. Only the way that somebody who's been in the game for as long as Nick has can give you my triplets there as well. They're the best. NewOrleans.football. Nick, thank you so much, man. Enjoy the combine.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Take it easy.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you next week. Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the 2 guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.